What do you mean you love spiders?
It is platonic, right?
I had the best collection in the Tri-County area. Browns and tarantulas and black widows. Then my folks shipped me off to wilderness camp. All my brother had to do was maintain their habitats. Instead, he left their heat lamp on for a week. When I came home, they were all dead. That's when the nightmares started.
The nightmares?
It's always the same. Sitting in my classroom, teacher asked me to read something. I open up my book and there they are. They're coming after me.
Episode 10 of Season 1 is where things begin to pick up and we start to get hints at the true potential of the show. Forget about campy hyenas, robots and puppets. Here, we are taking our first trip into the subconscious, into the dream world. It is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. This is actually not the first time we encounter dreams. In fact, we were first introduced to Buffy through her dreams, even before we got to see her in Welcome to the Hellmouth, and we learned that her dreams are scary and prophetic. But Buffy is not the only one who has scary dreams, and while our dreams may not be prophetic, they still have meaning. Deciphering that meaning is where it gets interesting, and this show will give us a lot to analyze in the coming seasons. Our first foray into the world of dream interpretation begins with this episode. What are dreams trying to tell us? Humans always wondered that. They used to believe that dreams are premonitions, telling us about our future. But the modern age provided another theory. When I presented my division of the modern age into periods, I mentioned that what I call the novel period is when the liberal order took over the West and aimed to use human rationality to create the perfect society. The belief was that if science discovers the truth about nature, enabling us to arrange society in a rational way, it will erase the ignorance and injustices that lead to misery and strife. But by the end of that period, they felt that it isn't working, that something is preventing us from achieving our goal. Among other things, they came to the realization that humans weren't as rational as they thought. Could there be another part of the human mind, underneath the conscious part, that is not driven by logic and empathy? This is one of the questions that the next period, the modernist period, tried to deal with. And right at the beginning of that period, in the year 1865, came a book that said it all, a book that begins with the hero falling into a place underground, below the surface of modern life, into a violent world where the rules of logic don't apply, a world full of magic and marvel and horror, a world that she gets out of by simply waking up. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, despite being a children's book, preempted all the more adult explorations into the subconscious. Many of the wonders that Alice meets are actually metaphors for the irrational sides of society that the Victorian mind was trying to hide from itself. It is also the book that took children's literature to the next level, and the modernist period is when the most classic children's books were written. The show actually winks at one of these books, that also ends with the hero waking up from a fantastical world.
I had the strangest dream. That you were in it, and you were there.
This is how the movie The Wizard of Oz, based on the classic book, ends. Like Alice in Wonderland, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz suggests that our dream world is a place in which we revert to being children, seeing the world as a kingdom of fantasy and wonder. But realistic novelists and philosophers also started to explore the dream world, coming up with different ideas. In his 1866 book Crime and Punishment, author Fyodor Dostoevsky uses dreams to show, in a metaphorical way, thoughts that torture the minds of the heroes, so much so that they cannot deal with them in their waking hours. In that, he took us one big step closer to our current understanding of dreams. Then, in his 1869 book Philosophy of the Unconscious, philosopher Edward von Hartmann claimed that the human mind includes an unconscious part, containing impulses that drive and affect our psyche. The book was very popular, and influenced the way the human mind started to be perceived. But the modernist period was also the time when the human sciences, such as psychology, were born, and started to use scientific methods to look into those areas of human nature that previously were the domain of philosophers and authors. It was time for someone to apply the scientific method to dreams as well. In 1899, Sigmund Freud published The Interpretation of Dreams, in which he attempts to provide a method to understand what dreams are trying to tell us. According to his theory, at the basis of every dream there is a wish that we harbor deep inside, and the dream fulfills that wish for us in our imagination. But it does it in a jumbled way, in which time and space are garbled up, not in a linear and coherent manner. Plus, the dream contains a lot of other stuff, like things that happen to us during the day, or things that we usually repress from our conscious brain, like desires, fears, and painful memories. Our consciousness finds it hard to deal with these things, so it has inbuilt mechanisms that repress them. When we sleep, the repression isn't as strong, so those things can enter our mind, but the defense mechanisms are still there, so they appear to us as metaphors. These metaphors, then, represent the things that are most painful and devastating for us, and through interpreting them, and through understanding what wish is being expressed by the dream, we can understand what is ailing the mind of the dreamer. Freud further developed these insights to create a field of psychoanalysis, attempting to achieve full knowledge of the human psyche. Psychoanalysis claims that the unconscious part of the mind is an active and powerful force, which drives our thoughts and actions, and presumes to map this unconscious part. It further claims that psychological problems are caused by the things that we repress, and can be cured if the patient is made aware of the thing they repress, and allows their conscious mind to deal with it and resolve it. Remember, the modern age was all about progressing towards the full understanding of human nature, which will allow us to then devise the perfect society. Psychoanalysis was very much part of that project, representing an attempt by the human mind to understand and shed light on its dark side, in order to control it and turn it in a positive direction. Freud was still part of the liberal state of mind, and believed the role of psychoanalysis was to provide therapy that will help people adjust to the liberal order. But the modernist period is already imbued with the feeling that liberalism is not the solution, and will never achieve the perfect society. In fact, many started to view the liberal order as a hindrance to modern progress, as the thing that stands in the way of humanity's chance of achieving perfection and happiness. Artists and philosophers now looked for ways to liberate the mind from the beliefs instilled in it by contemporary culture, and search for something better that is obscured by them. This mindset, naturally, was only enhanced by the events of World War I. After the war, a group of European artists convened in Paris and started to look for a better way, based on the ideas of Freud, which were still new and subversive at the time. They believed that life could be made better if we find a way to combine the conscious and unconscious mind, to create a super reality in which the wonders of the modern world will merge with the wonders of the dream world. This attempt at super-realism, or surrealism in French, was to be achieved mainly through poetry. The surrealists looked for ways to express the unconscious, like automatic writing, or seances, or documenting their dreams, and poured it into their poetry. Soon, painters joined the movement, trying to capture the dream world in their painting. But this was also already the beginning of the Hollywood period, and some surrealists eventually realized that films, with their ability to jumble up space and time better than any other art form, are the best surrealist medium. Cinema developed its own techniques to represent dreams, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer would make great use of them. The episode begins with another Buffy nightmare, but that's nothing special. The thing she's most worried about, once she wakes up, is actually a planned visit from her father. We can see that there's some tension there. These are the 90s, and the breakdown of the American family is already felt. In the 80s, as the conservatives dominated and tried to bring back old family values, American sitcoms showed the family as an ideal unit, where all members loved each other, and all problems were resolved by the end of the episode. This, however, felt phony to a large part of the public, and stand-up comedians started to mock it, telling funny stories about what family life truly is. This gave an idea to a couple of TV writers who decided to parody those sitcoms and present a completely dysfunctional family where everyone is a terrible person and everyone hates each other. The result was Married with Children, that premiered in 1987 on the new national network Fox. I've been using clips of this show to portray the cultural atmosphere at the time, but this causes copyright problems, so I'm going to limit their use from now on. Anyway, although the show was meant to be a wild parody, the creators were surprised to find many fans approaching them and thanking them for showing families the way they really are. The show became an unexpected smash hit and led to many other shows about dysfunctional families. The conservatives complained about this portrayal, but they should have blamed themselves. By painting a picture that was too rosy, they pushed the culture towards the opposite pole. One thing the conservatives may have been right to complain about is that sometimes alternatives to the nuclear family unit, such as single parenthood, were portrayed as an ideal. This is not the case with Buffy. Joyce is essentially a single parent, with Hank, Buffy's father, living in another city, but it is never presented as an ideal. Buffy desperately wants her father in her life, and is pained by his absence. We hear that he does love her, and occasionally he comes to pick her up to spend the weekend with her, but Buffy wants more. When she tells Willow about it, we get that Willow's home situation is far from ideal either, even though her parents are still married. There is no idealization here, just an honest portrayal of the reality of our time.
Must have been harsh.
Yeah, that's the word you're looking for. I mean, they were really good about it around me anyway, but still.
My parents don't even bicker. Sometimes they glare. Do you know why your folks split up?
I didn't ask. I just stopped getting along. Sure, I was a really big help, though. With all the slang and everything. I was in so much trouble. I was a big mess.
Well, I'm sure that didn't have anything to do with him leaving.
No.
Meanwhile, weird things are happening around the school. It appears that the ideal that the surrealist espoused, to have the world of dreams blend with the real world, is materializing, but there's nothing fun about it. It takes until we are halfway into the episode for Giles to finally figure out what is going on.
Of course! Our dreams are coming true.
Dreams? That would be a musical comedy version of this. Nightmares. Our nightmares are coming true.
A musical comedy version. Wouldn't that be fun? Here, however, we are dealing with nightmares, and not the wacky Broadway nightmare type either. The world is fast descending into hell, as we are exposed to the fears that reside in the unconscious part of the human mind. There are a few types of fears we encounter. Cordelia represents the most superficial type, as the manifestation of her nightmares include having a bad hair day, or being regarded as a nerd. In short, her fear is losing her social status. Meanwhile, Buffy has a test where she doesn't know any of the answers, and Xander finds himself naked in public, two common nightmares that pretty much everyone has, and come from fears that our culture instills in us. But there are also unexplained, irrational fears embedded in our subconscious, and here we see a plethora of these fears.
When you were a mortal boy, what did you fear?
Monsters.
We are defined by the things we fear.
We are defined by the things we fear, asserts the Master. This is vampire logic. Vampires are creatures who have a relationship of violence and fear with humans. Humans don't define themselves by their fears, but many fears have a word that defines them. Turns out that there are certain irrational fears that are shared by many humans, who are, for some reason, afraid of something that actually isn't dangerous. Those are, of course, the best fears for those who want to find ideas for horror stories and films. The show's use of those fears already began in the previous episode, The Puppet Show.
Ew, dummy.
Dow! Mine!
I think dummies are cute. You don't?
They give me the wig, ever since I was little.
What happened?
I saw a dummy, it gave me the wig. There really wasn't a story there.
Buffy is afraid of dummies. This is known as automatonophobia, fear of inanimate objects that are human-like. As she says, though, there's not much of a story there, and it will not be explored beyond that episode. But Xander's reaction shows that he suffers from metamphysomeophobia, which is fear of mimes, clowns, and people in masks. It is often connected to a childhood trauma, and this episode takes him back to that childhood trauma, making it come to life. Fear of clowns, coulrophobia, is more common, and an established horror trope. In the previous episode we also found out that Willow has stage fright, and here she is also made to face it. We also learned that she has arachnophobia, fear of spiders, whereas Buffy apparently has taphophobia, fear of being buried alive. Of course, there's nothing irrational about fearing that, but those who suffer from this phobia are plagued with the thought that it will actually happen. This fear of hers will come into play later in the show. There's not much that can be done to cure this type of fears. You just have to learn to live with them. But we also see fears that are more personal, belonging to the psychology of the individual, providing the actors with scenes to show their acting chops. When Buffy's father suddenly appears before schedule, and then takes Buffy aside to tell her that it was her fault he broke up with her mother, we realize that this is something that tortures Buffy's mind. This is before they realize those are just nightmares coming true, and the devastation on her face is heartbreaking. When Giles finds Buffy's grave, he realizes that his nightmare has come true, that he failed to prevent his Slayer from dying young, and his reaction is also very poignant. Sarah and Anthony deliver these scenes perfectly, taking the show one more step towards the emotional rollercoaster it was about to become. The main story, though, is the psychology of another individual. All along, Buffy is seeing a little kid observing the nightmares as they unfold, and she realizes he has something to do with it. They found out that this kid is actually in hospital, in a state of coma, which leads to the question,
The boy's been in a coma for a week. How could this be possible?
What am I, knowledge girl now? Explanations are your terrain.
Well, there's astral projection. The theory that while one sleeps, one has another body, an astral body, which can travel through time and space.
Billy's in a coma. That's like sleep, right?
In a manner of speaking, although one doesn't always awake from a coma.
Could I be seeing Billy's asteroid body?
Astral body, yeah.
this is the first time we encounter this little charming Buffy quirk that always manages to irk Giles but amuse me, her tendency to mispronounce fancy words and names and turn them into something silly. Giles later realizes that Billy passed over from the nightmare world into reality and brought the nightmares along with him. After figuring that out, the question becomes, how do we deal with this situation?
Fear is in the mind. Like pain, it can be controlled. If I can face my fear, it cannot master me.
One solution is facing the fear and overcoming it. This makes you more powerful, as you are no longer controlled by something that previously could smite you. The first of our heroes to actively face their fear is Xander, in another moment of growth.
You were a lousy clown. Your balloon animals were pathetic. Everyone can make a giraffe. I feel good. I feel liberated.
Yes, and as we shall see, it will make him stronger. But sometimes you don't even know what it is that you fear. People are controlled by something that disrupts their normal function, but they don't understand why. This is where psychoanalysis steps in. Our psychological traumas and fears, because they hinder our function, are repressed by our defense mechanisms to clear them out of our mind. But they remain in our subconscious and manifest themselves in destructive ways. The job of the psychoanalyst is to remove the mask that the patient puts over those traumas and fears. so that they can then face them and overcome them. Interpretation of dreams is one of the methods to achieve it. Giles figures out that the only way to save the world would be to wake Billy up, but for that, we must first figure out what it is that he is afraid of in the waking world. Once Buffy catches up with Billy and befriends him, she essentially begins a therapy session, in which she tries to figure out how to defeat the monster that is chasing him in his nightmares, and has already hurt other people as well.
Something bad happened to you after your game.
Something bad? I don't remember.
Do you remember playing baseball?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I play second base.
Are you Lucky 19?
That's what he calls me.
Who?
The ugly man. He wants to kill me. And he hurt that girl.
Why does he want to kill you, Billy?
He's
Billy, it's okay. What? Just tell me.
He's here!
Something happens to Billy after his kiddie league baseball game. Someone beat him up bad and put him in a coma. Apparently, it wasn't the beating up that did it, but a psychological reaction of his mind shutting down and hiding from the world. He can't remember what happened, because his defense mechanisms are suppressing the trauma. When Buffy tries to prod into his memory, the defense mechanisms react and send the monster to attack her. This is not the first time we see this huge monster. It resides in Billy's subconscious, a metaphor that represents the bully who attacked him.
Billy!
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Who is he?
He's the ugly man.
He's too strong. I can't fight him. We have to find my friends that can help us.
We have to hide.
No, he'll find us.
Yes, but we have to hide. That's how it happens. We hide, and then he comes.
The monster appears when we hide. It belongs to that part of the brain where things are hidden from the light. Buffy realizes that in order to defeat this monster, she must bring it into the light, meaning that she must figure out its true identity. Who does it represent? Well, its appearance already provides a couple of clues. His size hints that he is someone bigger than Billy, an adult, and the club-shaped arm indicates he is somehow connected to baseball.
When you lose, it's bad.
Did you lose your game last week?
It was my fault.
Why was it your fault?
I missed a ball and I should have caught it.
You missed one ball and the whole game was your fault? What? You were the only one playing? There wasn't 8 other people on your team?
He said it was my fault.
Who said? Billy, did he hurt you after the game?
Can we go another way to find your friends?
Sure.
While trying to figure out the identity of the monster, Buffy is already providing Billy with the means to defeat it, helping him deal with his guilt over losing the game. She loses him after that, so our heroes rush to the hospital, to Billy's bedside, and find his astral body hiding there. Since he is hiding, though, the monster immediately appears, but Buffy is not the same as she was before. She went through facing her deepest fear, the fear of dying and becoming a vampire, but she managed to accept her new vampire identity, meaning that she went some ways towards dealing with this fear and overcoming it. This makes her stronger, and she attacks the monster with her combined Slayer and vampire power, and defeats it. This isn't enough, though.
Come here, Billy.
I don't...
You have to do the rest.
What are they doing?
Forget it.
No more hiding.
Billy removes the monster's mask, symbolizing that now, after seeing that it can be defeated, and after working out his guilt issues, he can face the memory. This wakes him up from the coma, and everything returns to normal. Before he can tell them who the monster was, however, It already manifests itself in the form of his baseball coach, and it doesn't take them long to realize he was the one who beat him up. The coach tries to escape, but Xander, now more confident after overcoming the clown, grabs him and holds him, allowing Billy to complete his psychotherapy.
It wasn't my fault. There's 8 other players on the team. You know that.
Nice going.
It's not just a Scooby-Doo ending, but also a mega happy ending. Buffy's father shows up, happy to see her. Xander gets commended by Buffy for his heroics, and we end with a joke about what a pervert he is. But there is another type of fear shown in the episode, a fear that was not fully dealt with, and already prepares us for the final showdown of the entire season. In the opening nightmare, Buffy is descending into the Master's lair. Her hair is in pigtails, a look that we never see her wear to school. But she is also wearing them when she wakes up, so this is something that she does before going to bed at night, to prevent her hair from looking like this in the morning. It makes her look like a little girl, and when she faces the Master, she reverts to being a little girl, forgetting all her Slayer skills and helplessly allowing him to take her. Later, as we get engulfed by the nightmare world, her fear actually makes him manifest before her, and they meet each other for the first time.
So, this is the Slayer. You're prettier than the last one.
This isn't real. You can't be free.
You still don't understand, do you? I am free because you fear it. Because you fear it, the world is crumbling. Your nightmares are made flesh. You have little Billy to thank for that.
This is a dream.
A dream is a wish your heart makes.
This is a very Freudian thing to say, but the reference here isn't Freud. It's Cinderella. In a scene from the 1950 Walt Disney classic, Cinderella wakes up with her hair braided in pigtails, just like Buffy, and as she prepares for a day of servitude, she sings about how her dreams provide her escape from this hard life, and how she hopes that one day her dreams will come true, and she will find another life. The show seems to be hinting at similarities between the two girls. What is the connection? Well, we know Buffy would like to escape the life of the Slayer, but this doesn't seem to justify equating them. After all, Buffy isn't as helpless as Cinderella. She is a rock chick, a power girl, living in the rock and roll period where women are liberated. Right? This reminds me, we didn't discuss our rock and roll moment yet. It comes as Willow opens her locker, and we see a poster of Nerf Herder inside. Nerf Herder is a Californian band that played geek rock, a subgenre that emerged in the mid-90s, and more than any other signified the transition from the rock and roll to the cyber period. They may have even been the ones to coin the term, to describe their style of alternative rock with nerd culture imagery, and they were rewarded by being the band remembered for writing and performing the opening credit music for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The poster identifies Willow as the girl who has the spirit of both the rock and roll and the cyber periods, the liberated girl of the 90s. But then, later in the episode, she is rudely thrust back into the world of opera, made to play the character of Cho-Cho-san, the female lead in the 1904 opera Madame Butterfly. Cho-Cho is a 15-year-old Japanese girl who used to be from a noble family, but then fell from grace and forced into the role of geisha. She is marrying an American naval officer, whom she hopes would save her from this life and take her to America. Aldo, Willow's partner in the duet, is playing the role of the American, and this is what he is singing.
Bimbo dagli occhi pieni di Maria, ora sei tutta mia, sei tutta vestita di giglio, mi piace la treccia tua bruna, fraganti di peli.
And this is what Willow is supposed to answer.
Come
Come on, easy peasy. I don't see why Willow would have a problem performing it. But I want to focus on something that she's supposed to sing later in the duet. As pop-age listeners, you might think that Chocho is expressing fear that the marriage will turn out to be a prison, where she is pinned down by the man. But this is not what is happening. She is asking him to pin her down like a butterfly. For her, salvation means being owned by a man in the bond of marriage. In both Willow and Buffy's nightmares, they cast themselves in roles from old stories of more patriarchal times, in which the girl is completely helpless to change her miserable situation, and her only hope is that a good man would come and rescue her by making her his. The show, with its underlying feminist worldview, is hinting that although women are liberated in our culture, the unconscious part of our mind is still patriarchal, still making women feel like they have to rely on men. This is something that is not resolved in this episode, and will continue to exist below the surface for years to come.